As a Zayin a base from the Mishnah, Nishmat Barzo mi kato v'horeg. So you're swinging the axe, and then there's a maklokas what's going on here. But Pashas and Rashi is as you're swinging the axe head flies off the handle and then goes kill somebody. Rebbe Oimer Eina Goyle. So Rebbe says that you're not Goyle. So maklokas here either you're a Korov Lemezid or you're Korov Leoines. Whichever, that's not going to be the focus of what we're doing here. Now, that basically is the pasuk that's in the Torah that says you go to Galus, so we have to see what's going on there. But there's maklokas here, Rebbe and Chachamim, that when the axe flies off, that you don't, Rebbe says that you don't get Gola, Chachamim say, so you do. Mena eitz hamekbeya, so that you're chopping up the wood, like you're chopping into a tree, and a wood chip flies off. Rebbe Oimer Goyle, v'Chachamim Oimrim Eina Goyle. So here, Rebbe says that that's the case that we're talking about in the pasuk. So Gemara will explain. The Chachamim say that it's Eina Goyle. So again, the pashtus here it's Kocho, and it's Eina Goyle. Now you have here the nun, which is the halacha. So you have a look at that Rambam. So the Rambam is Hayetze Even Bechekel. This is, I think, above a comma, and then you know about it, and you forgot about it, and you stood up, and it fell down, and it kills somebody. So there you go to galus. So this is a case of you killing b'shoigeg. So you had the stone, and you knew it was there, but you kind of forgot about it, and then as you stood up, it fell off the roof, and then it killed someone. So that's a shoigeg. Sheneg b'shkaga mechalal shehayato lo yedia. It says shkaga, so you have to have some type of a yedia originally. Nishmat barzo mikato v'horeg areza goyle. So again, in the Mishnah, this is our case in the Mishnah, and he's going like the Chachamim. Nishmat barzo mina eitz. So here, the barzo is coming out of the eitz, which would be a case of where you're chopping into the tree, and as you're whacking the axe into the tree, the axe head hits into the tree and rebounds back, and then kills somebody. Hamakbeya eina goyle. It's that case you're eina goyle. Why not? That's not called your Koach. Ela mikoach kocho v'nimsa koicha oines. So your oines, your nimsa kamo oines. So koach koicha is oines. So koach koicha is like your oines, and therefore you're eina goyle for koach koicha. So again, if you are swinging the axe, so you throw the axe up, and then the axe head flies off the axe handle, so that's your power that's throwing that axe. And I don't know, you could kind of see that if you hit a ball with your baseball bat, and that would be kocho, because here you have, let's say, an axe head that's not so well attached to your handle, and you throw the handle and the axe head flies off. Rambam calls that koach. And it's when you're hitting the axe into the wood, and the wood kind of rebounds it back. You kind of have this rebound off the tree you're chopping. That tree makes it go, and that's called kocho. And there you're like going to, and you ain't a goyle. The Kenazaric Evan. So we'll see this. This is going to be the next Gemara. But basically, the Rambam is supposed to like the Chachamim here of the first case of that. Of that the barzel flies off, the Chachamim hold. So the Chachamim say this goyle because that's koyach mina eitz mekbeya. Here the Gemara is really saying that the eitz is flying off. Rashi says yetze kisem venites. It goes far off and it kills somebody. Rambam could either be learning this, that actually the eitz makes the axe head fly off, and then we're going like the Chachamim eina goyle.
Yes.
So Tanya Amar Lahem Rebbe Lechachamim the Kinem. So we're going to have this. It's the one pasuk that they're arguing about. Venisha la barzo mi etzo. Does it say that the barzo flies off from the etzo? Halo no lemer ela min ha'etz. It comes from the eitz. So the pasuk is defining what is galus, and therefore the galus in the pasuk is the kocho. So the pasuk is defining for us what kocho is. So therefore the Rebbe is learning from the pasuk that has to come from the eitz, and therefore, in the second case of when the eitz is causing the destruction, Rebbe says that's where you go to galus, and that's called kocho, and therefore beyond that it will be kocho. So the place where the Chachamim call it kocho, which is the second case, that because Rebbe learns mina eitz, therefore the place where the Chachamim call that kocho, which is potter, Rebbe says that's what the pasuk is talking about. It's kocho, and you're chayav galus. So now Rebbe has this va'oid, which comes up later. Va'oid ne'emar eitz lamata v'ne'emar eitz lamala ma eitz ha'omer lamala mina eitz ha'mekaveya. So it's the wood. So in af eitz ha'omer lamata mina eitz ha'mekaveya. So therefore we have the two eitzes. Eitz lamata v'nishal labarza mina eitz eitz lamala lekarosa eitz. Is cutting the tree. So he has a hekesh between the two, and the eitzes are the same. Amar Rebbe Chia, Amar. So again, in the Mishnah, that the wood that's being chopped up, that flies off and kills someone. So we have in the same posuk, previously in the posuk, mina eitz that's being chopped up. So also too the eitz that's below is being chopped off. So therefore, Rebbe is learning that the eitz that's flying off while you're chopping it, a piece of wood just flies off. That kills someone. He says that's the case of galus, where the chachamim are defining that as kocho and your potter from galus. So considering the Gemara, Amar Rebbe Chia Barashi Amarav v'shneihem mikro echad darshu. So they're both learning from one pasuk. V'nishal habarzal mina eitz. They're all both learning from this one thing. V'nishal habarzal mina eitz. Like both the chachamim. So Rebbe Yosef yesh aim lemesayros v'nishal katif. So nishal is that like it caused to come off. So it's not that the eitz itself was coming off, but so the nishal means that it dislodged something. It like took off something else. It removed something else. So that the eitz is causing the tree to come out. So that's Venisha, which is the aim lemesayra. The Rabbanan hold that it's the aim lemikra. Venashal, we read it as venashal. Venashal means that it fell off. Didn't cause something else to come out. The it itself fell off. So therefore the barzel fell out is what the Rabbanan say. Therefore the barzel falling out, that's the case of Koach, and therefore something beyond that would be called Koach in your potter. And Rebbe's saying, nishal is that it caused something else to come out, and therefore the barzel itself didn't come out. Therefore, even when it causes something else to come out, that's galus. Therefore, that's to be Koach. So that's the Makot. Amar Rabbi Yitzchak. So does Rebbe really hold this? They all hold that yesh aim lemikra. So Rebbe has to hold here. Rebbe here holds the yesh aim lemikra. So how can he not be flipping it? Hayinu, that's what he says, v'od. That's why he has a second reason of v'od. Now, this is a bit of a strange teretz, because if he doesn't hold of it, then why is he giving it as a... He's just saying that there's you can see in the posuk that there's also the nishal is there, but the real reason is the hekesh within the posuk, but the fact that it says the nishal also shows you that that's not the... even though that's not how you darshan the posuk, because it yesh aim lemikra, it's also there. So Amar Rav Papa, someone who throws a clod, you pick up some karka and you throw it to a decal, to a date tree, and it like dislodges some dates, and the dates go kill somebody. So, but that's the Maklokas Rebbe and Rabbanan. Meaning that Rebbe holds that this is all Kocho, and therefore you chayiv for killing somebody, and the Rabbanan will hold that's Kocho, and therefore you potter for killing them. It says Peshitas, who say that Rebbe's going to hold this a Kocho, because in the case of the in the Mishnah, then you're having a direct access onto the wood. You're chopping into the wood, and the barzel hits the wood, and the wood then causes it to fly out. Or according to the Rambam, where you smack the iron into the tree, and then the iron knocks out. That it's really in your hands, whereas here you're throwing it. Since you're throwing it, it's not in your hands, and therefore you will think that it's a more divorced level, and therefore enter into kocho kamash malan. That's still called koach according to Rebbe, even when you throw it. Now again, according to halacha, we're all going like the Rabbanan. Now kocho the Rebbe hechim shakla. So therefore, how does Rebbe have kocho b'chla? We're telling all these cases of kocho. He just says a kocho that you throw the piece of earth, and then it hits, and then that causes something else to move, and then that comes and hits somebody, and then it hits the tamar ve'azov, the tamar ve'katel. So you have a double remove. So it hits into so you hit into the branch, and then the branch goes, and that hits into a cluster, and then the cluster causes the date to fall, and that date falls and kills somebody. So we have this extra level, and that's the Kocho according to Rebbe. So that's basically the kind of sugi here of Kocho. And so again, we hold by Rabbanan, and if we have Koach and Kocho, where the Rabbanan is that when you're holding onto the axe and then you throw it, and then the barzel falls off, so that's called Koach. But if something else makes the barzel come off, that's called Kocho. Just finish the Rambam because he goes into the end of the Gemara. They became Zerch Even letamar, hapil tamar, to make the tamar fall off, and then the tamar fell on the tinok. You see, he says tinok to make it a more understandable case how this date is going to kill someone, and you potter because that's Kocho and everything like that for other sibas. So that's basically the sugi there, Kocho. Now the Rishash.
Just a quick question.
So the Rishash, Ela Kochi, so mashmit the Kochi Kula Alma Potter. So everyone holds Kochi holds. Once you hit the level of Kochi, that's a din of Potter. It's just the Rabbanan and Rebbe have different levels of when you hit Kochi. And go see Sanhedrin to the Ili Nezikin that the Rosh holds the Kochi Dami. The ayin mashakasav sham raya le devarav. So for in Nezikin that the Rosh holds that the koach was like a kocho and your chayev. That when you for Nezikin, if you use kocho, therefore it is a chayev. So therefore this idea of kocho is not a klal and Torah kola Torah kulo. It's a klal specifically here by galus or by murdering as to whether you hold somebody where the kocho you're not chayev. Again, you're not chayev for misa for kocho, but for nezek then you are going to be chayev. So therefore the Rishash is saying that it is not a din but kola Torah kula. So the Or Sameach is going to say that the kocho it will have a din in Kol Torah Kula. So Inadad, Kama Inyon Matzana de Kocho Lo Chashev Kagufo. This is in Hilchos Shabbos. Right, so we're going to see that many times a Kocho is not considered like your guf, like you haven't done it yourself with the Kocho, and that's for murder, as you see in Makot Ches Amud Aleph, that if you throw in the dikla and then it goes and kills someone, that's Kocho and your potter. Also in Shabbos we see you're chayev for throwing from reshus to reshus. So that's koach. So the throwing from reshus to reshus is your koach and your chayev for your koach in Shabbos. And your zorek and also chabura and your chayev through your kocho. But kocho, we don't hear that you're chayev. So here we're saying that in Shabbos we never see anyone. So in Shabbos a kocho you're going to be potter. Kmokain, Gabi Zav, Be'erevin. We also have an erevin. That's it's a shaking. If the Zav shakes you, but if it's kocho, so then it's potter. So later on, so this is the klal here of the Or Sameach that for kocho you're not chayev for Shabbos. Kevin shekain nira. The Afal Gav, the Toil de Rishoina, Haba Mena Eish Chayev. So now he's going into the whole din of Bishul and Eishir. That since the Toil de Rishoina of Ba comes from the Eish of Chayev. So if I put if it cooks. So if I have, this is basically a Kli Rishon. If I put a Kli on the fire, so that's the first Tolda that comes out of the fire. So the fire heats up the kli, and everything that's in the kli gets cooked. So therefore, when you're mavashlim it, that's called the first tolda. That's called like the koach of the eish. Become makam al tolda shel toida. So that the tolda of a tolda is like the koach kocho. That the eish heats up the kli rishon. That's koach, and that's the first tolda of eish. But then the kli sheni. So the kli sheni will be like the koach kocho of the eish, or the tolda of the tolda. Kamo davar shenis chamen b'mayim. So that you have something that is heated from the water. So you heat up the water, so you put the water into the kli. You put the kli on the fire. Now the water is hot. You take it off the kli, and now that water itself seems to be davar that gets heated by the water that was heated from the eish. So that's where you pour that water into a second kli or something. It's not clear whether this water is in the first kli or out of the kli. or kagon barzel that comes kedira chamim v'nischamem. So you have the iron that comes inside this hot water and gets heated up. Two lotzila bo beitza potter. And now if you put a egg in there, you're potter. Why? Because have told kamo shekoach koach lo chashiv kamo gufa davar. Just like the koach doesn't. It's not like you did it. If you're koach, kill someone, so therefore that's not called your guf doing it. So too, the tolda of the toldas, the Aish didn't do it. If he rachuch yechse etzel ha'Aish, because the Aish didn't do it, it's too far removed from it all. Therefore, the Aish never did it, since the Aish didn't do it. So therefore, you're potter for the kli sheni. Nifka memenu shem ha'Aish. So therefore, the kli sheni doesn't have the shem ha'Aish there. V'havi chuma kachum tivi. It's just like a natural. It's like a natural heat. She'ena masiva. It's nothing to do with the fire. Just like the Chamei Teveria, where you're potter for cooking. There's no cooking in the Chamei Teveria because it's a natural water source, it's not Aish. And go ahead and see Perek Tzoylin, the Shaka Vitaria there. Now, so V'keven Shekei, near Alon or Loimer, B'sfir Shas. The Kedera Dihi Atzma, Mahani Lahavshel, the Kedera helps to cook. Ayin Perek Kol Shah. Calls Choshev Goyrim. The Kedera is considered the Goyrim. And therefore, by kli sheni, even ki ika davar misav b'kli sheni. So, and this is a big issue when it comes to discussing kli sheni, because once you have yad seledispo, then basically you're into the issues of kli sheni, that a yad seledispo. So yad seledispo is whatever in your 60s or 70s. Now you can have a kli rishon at 70, and then you put it in the kli sheni. And it doesn't really do much. You can say, so let's say the Kli Rishon is 70, and it goes into then a Kli Sheni, and now the Kli Sheni is 65. Don't know what this is in Fahrenheit. So you'll say, the Kli Sheni is less than the Kli Rishon, you can say it doesn't cook. However, you can have a Kli Rishon that's 70. Now you have a Kli Rishon at 100, which you pour into a Kli Sheni that's now 95. So now this Kli Sheni at 95, you say doesn't cook, but the Kli Rishon at 65 does cook. So how is it now that halachically is true that the kli sheni doesn't cook and the kli rishon does, and people have to work for svaras to work out why exactly is the kli sheni not doesn't cook. So I think Moshe Feinstein is saying that like the since the kli sheni was never on the fire, therefore when you put the water in there or whatever you're putting into the kli sheni, the water the walls of the clay all of a sudden start to cool everything down. And even though it's at a very high temperature, since it's cooling down, it's kind of like on its way down and doesn't cook like something else, like it's on its way up. It's very dakus svara, and you could argue with it. Is that scientifically true, etc. But here, the way that the Or Sameach will explain it is very glad, because again, halachically, a kli sheni of 95 does not cook, and a kli rishon of 70 does cook. So how do you explain that? So here, because even if you ask me, taka cooked in a kli sheni, I don't care. So in Shabbos, so this is one of the sources for Kalei HaBishul, that if you go to Shabbos, Mem Beis, I'm a Beis, the first Loshen says that salt gets cooked in a Kli Rishon. Pashas of Halacha, we don't hold the first Rishon and go into the second. The Torah when Kalei HaBishul comes up, the Torah says, what are you talking about? The Kli Sheni never cooks. So the Pashas is that the salt doesn't cook, that later on it says that basically salt doesn't cook at all. You don't need to cook it. It doesn't matter how hot the kli sheni is. The salt never cooks. That's the second lishon. But the first lashon is saying that the salt will cook there. And that's one of the sources for Kalei HaBishul. So first it's the Maklokas in that Gemara as to whether there's such a thing as Kalei HaBishul. So he's saying here, so that there's a davar that cooks in a kli sheni, like over there we see the first lashon of the melech Kalei HaBishul. Im yeh b'kli sheni ein chayev mishum bishul. You're not called bishul. The hamayim shel kli rishon huchmu ba'or, because the first kli that's gone on the fire, and that's the chum, that's the tolda of eish, and after that then it gets heated mitochim hakadera hakli sheni. So if once you go into the kli sheni, the chum kli sheni have a tolda to eish, so it's the koach kocho, that you have the kli rishon is the koach, kli sheni is the koach kocho, and therefore you're not chayev a chum chamei teveria, it's a tivi, therefore that the hamenach tivsha al de chum hamayim shechum shalhem tolda eish. The aliyadei chuma katera to have a chuma kachamit of a potter misham mivashal. Therefore, he's saying every kli sheni and even the Kalei HaBishul, you're potter the gamri from cooking. Yes, so in the next paragraph here, the Kaven to Bekli Sheni af dover misvashel ein chayiv mishum bishul. So you're saying that in the Kli Sheni, even if you cook in the Kli Sheni, you're not chayiv for bishul. And therefore, I mean, that's basically the whole, the and again, most people are going to hold. It's hard to find people holding that the Kli Sheni is going to be chayiv for bishul. However, the Orach HaShulchan, the Choyra holds that you are chayiv in the Kli Sheni, but here anyway, it's Kli Sheni. So the way the Ur is learning, so again, you can never be chayiv in a Kli Sheni because of Kocho, and the Kocho is just a din of potter. It's not a din in bishul. I don't care if the guy killed the baby with the date, and he's potter. He had the Koach in order to kill the person, but it's not called he killed him because of Kocho. So even if you mavashel in the Kli Sheni, it doesn't really matter because it's Kocho. So here in the Orach HaShulchan. So it talks about making tea. So anything that you wash, zuhi gomer malachtan. So this is going in the second case of kali habishal, which is towards the end of Mezechet Shabbos, which is like the salty fish that you wash it. And some people hold it's nothing to do with kali habishal at all. It's called you're metaking the food that you can't eat it beforehand, and therefore by washing it, you're making it makot b'patish. Maklokas on that it can't be makot b'patish. It could be, but so again, not there. It doesn't say anywhere the kali bishul in the Mishnah or the Gemara. It's just that's the Meforshim explaining why if you wash these salty fish are you chayiv. So that's anything that has the Gemara malachta and have a bishul v'chayiv v'Shabbos. The fiza, if you have what you call tea, that you pour on them hot water, and it's a davar yedua that they're easily shabishlan kal. It's easy to be mavashel. Even in a Kli Sheni, mevashlin. So even a Kli Sheni mevashlin, like our eyes see. So here, again, like our eyes see that they cook in the Kli Sheni. So according to the Svar of the Or Samech, I don't care what our eyes see. Like I saw you kill the baby with the tamar. It still doesn't mean that you're chayav misa, but I saw you kill. He killed, yes. But that's a kocho, so you're potter. I don't really care if you killed him or not. Here, so even though I see it, according again, the people who are against Ur Samech is saying no, it's a cooling mechanism, or it's just less. It's not as powerful chom as on the yesh. It's off the yesh. But here we see that. So if you're saying that it's a case of bishul, just less bishul. So for kali a bishul can cook in a Kli Sheni. So therefore we see that it's cooked like our eyes see. So therefore when you pour on them hot water on Shabbos, even through a Kli Sheni, chayiv chatus. So there, how did he get this? Afilu al yedei Kli Sheni chayiv chatus. So here, the Orach HaShulchan is holding that bishul for the Kli Sheni or chayiv chatus. That's an issue d'oraisa. V'rabim nishchum is betos shel hevel. So again, according to what the Or Samech is saying, the Savara of the Or Samech, saying that there's no such thing as mevashlin in a Kli Sheni. Also, there's the Moshe Feinstein that goes against this as well. Here in Moshe Gasav in the Moshe Feinstein, but Orach HaShulchan, סימן Shin Yucheh Sif, and we see that the tea is mitvashel gam b'kli shlishi. So he just said that there's no we don't see that Davarim cooking in Kli Shlishi. So even though we hear, according to what the Orach HaShulchan is saying, that it cooks also in Kli Shlishi, not understood this at all. Understood because our eyes see it, that miachtin hamayim zeh eno. That's because of the water. That's not a raya in bishul. Because even in karim mamish, yeah, so that that the water becomes like red from the tea. You put the tea into clear water. He says there that it's that shows that it's cooking. That's not a din because even in cold water it gets red after some time. So all the more so with hot water when the yud the ein hayad seletus, because the bishul only kicks in at yad seletus bo. Velo zehu Indian bishul, therefore it's nothing to do with that. So the coloring of the water is not a thing of bishul. But here he's talking about Kli Shlishi, but he'll agree with the Kli Sheni. It's the Orach HaShulchan here. I see that it cooks in the Kli Sheni, uba Kli Shlishi, that it cooks easy. So that's what he's arguing there. So here in the Mishnah Berura, Memhei, so Koach came in with B'tzalim, or onions, that you need to be careful. Because we are not Bokim B'medi Demikri Rachin, a canal. So we don't know if that's called Kali Bishul or not. Koach lefi ma shenogin liten betzalim toch hatavshel. That shehu davar gush. So we put the onion inside the tavshel. That's a davar gush. So bevada yesh li zarbe zed yesh poiskim shesarvim the davar gush shemunach bekli sheni dino kli rishon. So here in it says in the Sha'ar Tzion it's Magen Avram. So we have the din of the Magen Avram is called the davar gush. So the davar gush is something that is like solid. A potato is a classic case of a davar gush. So you have the davar gush in the kli rishon, and it gets hot in the kli rishon. And then you put it into the kli sheni. So let's say you take a potato out of the cholent pot, which is on, so it's a kli rishon, into the kli sheni. Now that potato is on the plate as which is a kli sheni, but that potato is like bringing over all the heat from the kli rishon, so it's like a kli rishon still. So that davar gush is like retaining all that heat of the potato and is now radiating like it's still a kli rishon. So here, that's what the davar gush is. You have like this dense food, so that you have here he's calling it the batzal, or you have a potato. So it's a davar gush. So they hold a davar gush that is in a kli sheni that din has a kli rishon. So therefore, let's say you can put some type of sauce or some ketchup or mayonnaise on your kli sheni because it doesn't cook. Can you put it on a davar gush? Now, the question here being is, according to the Orsameach, is that called Koach or Kocho? So, because it's basically come from the first Koach. So it's like the heat is still coming out. So if I pour into the second kli, so the second kli is removed from the fire. So the fire goes into the potato, and then the potato goes into the ketchup. Right? So therefore the first holda is that the potato heats up. But then l'chayra, any heat that's in the potato that's going into the ketchup or the mayonnaise and cooking it, l'chayra, that would also be kocho. So therefore l'chayra, according to the Orsameach, there's no room for a davar gush either. Again, the makor for the davar gush is the Magen Avram. So it's not in the realms. It's not like a Mishnah or a Gemara or even a Rishon. So it's more of a Savara, but that Savara will only work if you hold that Bishul is the key. And when something mevashals, a kli sheni doesn't mevashal, so we're good. We just can't cook something. So if you put a steak on the frying pan, you'll cook it. If you put a steak on a plate that was on the frying pan, it's not going to cook it. So therefore, kli sheni l'chor doesn't cook. So it's a Savara that the things that are off the fire don't really cook so well. Then therefore, when things do cook, like Kali Bishul or a davar gush, so therefore the Isra will kick in, because misvara we see that it's cooking stuff. And if you put mayonnaise on a really hot potato that's straight out of the oven or straight out of the cook, it will cook the mayonnaise. So therefore you'll say misvara that it's a Isra Bishul and it's also on Shabbos. But according to the svara of the Orsameach, it's nothing to do with whether it cooks or not. It's to do with the koach avesh and koach avesh, and therefore davar gush your potter, and for all kli shenis and all kali bishul in a kli sheni your potter on Shabbos and is not bishul.